Welcome to the Bettis Musgrove Show, the podcast where personal injury legal expertise meets real-world advice to empower and protect you. Join us as we delve into the critical aspects of personal injury cases, break down legal jargon into actionable insights, and share essential safety tips to help you navigate life's unexpected moments. And now, here are your hosts, Spencer Bettis and Ben Musgrove.
All right, welcome to episode 9 of the Bettis Musgrove Show. As always, I'm Ben Musgrove. This is my law partner, Spencer Bettis. We own and operate a boutique law firm in Cumming, Georgia that specializes in personal injury. And we started this podcast several months ago just to give the general public more of an idea of what we do for a living, what personal injury is, and hopefully help somebody if they're ever involved in an injury-related event so that we can be there and be the advocates that they need in that time. Over the past few weeks, we've covered a variety of topics, all stemming somewhat from personal injury law, talking about the psychological effects that come after an accident, talking about different attorneys in the area and what they practice in catastrophic injury law, that type of thing. We brought in insurance agents to talk about different types of insurance and what people should be doing. And we focused a lot on just general advocacy as personal injury attorneys and what that looks like from our end. This week we had sort of a scheduling snafu and had to reschedule the guest that we had planned today. So Spencer and I talked about what we wanted to discuss, and we thought we'd just kind of give everybody a general status of the firm, how we've done the past year since we've partnered together, where we look to go with this, what we're doing with the podcast, just generally how things are looking. So, partner, I thought we'd start out. I went through the list this morning and totaled everything up. So right now we're sitting on 66 active personal injury cases. In my opinion, I think that's kind of right in the middle of the sweet spot. Yep. For two of us, just two attorneys. I think anywhere from 60 to 75 cases is sort of where we want to be. Of those, 55 of them are motor vehicle collisions. 4 of them are premises liability actions. We've got 2 wrongful death cases going right now, and then we've got 5 what I call other negligence. So somebody did something they shouldn't have, and somebody got injured because of it, but it doesn't really fall into any of the other categories. I don't know if you've taken a look at those numbers or not, but I think they're pretty good.
Oh, I think they're great.
Yeah, and I think what I've noticed too is over the past year since we've partnered up, the cases have sort of trended more towards more serious types of injuries. We're getting a lot of calls from people. It's not just your typical fender bender, rear end collision where somebody's got a little whiplash. We still get those. Yeah, I love working those. They can be some of the most challenging sometimes, but a large percentage of what we're getting calls on now are more, I want to say, catastrophic. Certainly we've got the death cases going. I think what's interesting about what you and I do is we really don't care what the value of the case is, so to speak. We really focus on where we can offer the most assistance, where we can do the most good and give our clients the most value. I will say that also, at least in the past couple of months, the majority, I don't know about the majority, but a good portion of the cases that we're getting called on are cases of disputed liability. In a car wreck, as you and I both know, generally liability is pretty clear.
Right.
They either did something or they didn't do something, and we can show that with records, videos, that type of thing. You get rear-ended, it's pretty clear that you got rear-ended. Somebody was following you too closely. But a lot of these cases we're getting are the insurance companies are actually disputing liability. They've denied liability in a lot of them. So we're really having to dig in on some of these new ones and go prove that liability, which is something we've talked about a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there's that barrier of proving liability that, I like kind of nerd out on because I want to, I like that fight, but obviously I want it to be the easiest possible case for the client to get compensated. But that disputed liability is where the interest comes from an attorney's perspective.
Well, and selfishly, I mean, we get to actually be lawyers in those.
Right.
Get to go do a little bit more investigation than might ordinarily be needed, and certainly it looks like several of these we're going to get to take all the way to a jury, which it's not that common anymore, and I'm really excited about it. So it'd be nice to get in there and kick some things around, see what happens.
Yeah, do some real lawyering. Love it.
Moving on, back in June, really the end of May to the middle of June, we had our biggest month so far from a monetary standpoint. And when I say biggest, I mean we had more settlements for our clients in that month period than we've ever had individually or together. The numbers from just that month were larger than 22 and 23 annual numbers, not combined, but individually. And we make it a point not to talk about the numbers that we receive. I think generally the public looks at that sort of poorly. There's a little bad taste when somebody's out there flaunting that they just got $1 million for a bunch of different reasons. One, you're sort of giving up an aspect of your client's claim that they may not want disclosed. They don't necessarily want the community to know that they just received $1 million. On the other side, it gives people an idea into the money that we're making, and I don't necessarily want to go around talking about how much money we make. I don't think that there's good taste there. So we try not to talk about it, but I am very impressed with what we were able to do in that 1 month period, and it looks like the next few months coming up are going to be just as good. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, the future is bright.
It is. I mean, we're kicking tail and taking names here, and I'm loving it.
Yeah. And the best part about that is, it may sound cheesy, I don't know, but we're doing well for the clients.
Yeah. I mean, every one of these results has been life-changing for those clients.
Right. You're not going to see us out there, like you said, flaunting, hey, we got this big settlement,
right.
And something we want to make people aware of sometimes when it's appropriate, but we got the result for the client, and that's what we're focused on. That's what's important to us.
And it's a weird dynamic. I mean, you go to any personal injury website, I would say, and there's going to be a ticker on there. We do a very poor job of keeping ours updated.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a ticker on there of how much money they've recovered over their career. And some of these numbers, when you put them in the aggregate, can get up to just stupid figures. Right. It's awesome because clearly those lawyers are doing a good job. They're getting good results. But are you doing it to brag, or are you doing it to say that I can do a good job? And that's the fine line that you got to ride there.
Right. Exactly.
So I like the way we handle it.
Me too.
Moving on from that, we're fully established here in the new office. It took a long time. We finally finished getting it painted the last week, getting the touch-ups that we needed. We put some stuff on the walls, which I didn't think we were ever going to do. It kind of looked like a prison in here with bare walls.
Yeah, I may still have a few pictures on the floor of my office, but it's getting there.
It might be because we need our wives to come in and tell us what we need to put on the wall.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it's definitely it's got a more masculine feel. I think you got the stuffed bobcat here and the bourbon, the American flags, the Army stuff. So I like it.
I love it.
If we get some female attorneys in here, they may want to change a few things.
Yeah.
No, so we're fully in, fully decorated. I hope people will come by and see us. I love it when I hear the doorbell ring and we get to go up and show somebody around. And we're getting some pretty good feedback on the office space. And we've got plenty of room to grow, which is also exciting. So
very much so.
All right, well, take us into what we got going next week.
Sure. We are going to Auto Torts next week.
Yeah.
I love. That's our kind of yearly conference. It is at the beach, which is nice, at least for the families. But I love the classes. I like sitting in, learning every single one. There's some folks that will come in there and sign their name and walk out and go to the beach.
Yeah.
But I sit through pretty much every one because I just love learning, what are the new tips and tricks? What are we seeing out there? Like last year, there was a course about, engagement agreements, which is just for attorneys to really focus on. But that one was very interesting. I still think about that.
Yeah. And for those that don't know that are listening, so it's called Auto Torts. It's a weekend-long series of seminars that we sit through. It's hosted by a group called the Georgia Trial Lawyers Association, which Spencer and I are both part of. And I can honestly say that in my career, GTLA has been one of the more pivotal groups that I've joined. I've learned so much from the other members. It's a very tight-knit community. Everybody's very open, sharing the things that they're doing, the mistakes that they've made, how not to make them again. Kind of like you said about the employment agreement that we learned about last year. That guy had a mistake in there, and he learned the very hard way that he needs to change his employment agreement. So,
yeah,
take a lot from it. Excuse me. I really enjoy, because there's going to be several hundred personal injury lawyers at this conference, and we know a lot of them. So you get to get in and network a little bit, but goodness. Excuse me. What I love about it more than anything is that these speakers will get up here and tell you what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Right.
And we take something away from it every time. It is my favorite event of the year. We get to knock out our 12 continuing education hours that we've got to take care of. But more than that, we just get to mingle with our friends and our colleagues and really dive into personal injury in a deeper way.
Yeah, there's one next week I'm particularly excited about trucking accidents and some of the technological changes that are coming up with that. So
yeah,
I'm excited.
And yeah, I also love, they bring in state reps, senators. Occasionally we get a judicial panel in there. So you get to hear about the law from a completely different standpoint.
Yeah.
And I think, hearing about judges, goodness, I'm sorry. Hearing about judges talk about what they see, the do's and don'ts that they see from attorneys in their courtroom, and you can pick up little tips and tricks there. Hearing from the legislature and where they're what they're going to do with tort reform or how they're battling tort reform or whatever the case may be, very informative. So at GTLA, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. I look forward to next year. I think they're coming back down to Georgia and going down to the St. Simon Sea Island area. So that's one of my favorite spots on earth. Can't wait for that one.
Yeah. I'm going to miss Isle of Palms. I like it up there.
Isle of Palms is awesome. Charleston in general, the food is really the best part. But
yeah,
just a good event all the way around.
Yep.
And then when we get back, you've got some exciting things going on. So Yeah.
So I've joined the Leadership for Scythe class for 2024. Really excited about that. Good opportunity to meet some folks and just kind of get plugged into Forsyth County.
Sure.
I've lived here my entire life. My family's from here. But there's a lot of new people here, a lot of business owners, or a lot of people just looking to connect like myself. So looking forward to that. Getting to see maybe some of the inner workings of how this county works, how the government works. And they do some really great stuff for the community. I think one year they built a basketball court or something on that, along those lines for the Bald Ridge Lodge, which is incredible.
Yeah. So I did Leadership for Scythe back in 2021, as you know, and it was a little weird coming off of COVID. We didn't get to do quite as many things as other past classes or classes since then, but the group is phenomenal. You get to meet the absolute leaders of this community, whether it's, again, elected officials, business owners, whatever the case may be, and then, yes, you get to do your community service project. I think our class, we sponsored a local, I don't want to call it a rehab, but a facility where people who are struggling with addictions or any sort of disorders like that can go, and it's a safe place for them just to hang out and not be subject to those types of pressures. And so we built them basically a studio sound stage area and DJ booth and just a place where they can meet and listen to music and have a good time. A lot of teenagers involved in that, so we're very proud of what we did and love the group, love staying involved in everything that they do. So I'm glad you're going to get in there and get your feet wet with Leadership for Scythe and really expand on our community involvement.
Yeah, me too. I've also joined the North Forsyth Rotary Club.
Very nice.
Yeah, filled with some great people, and their big focus is improving schools and helping kids in our community, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. I've never done Rotary. I'm getting some pressure from a friend of mine to join his Rotary group here in town, so I'll probably follow suit here shortly.
Yeah.
And also a great organization.
It is. And so with our move to Cumming, something we're really looking to do is plug in just to get to meet folks. Our new offices in Cumming, we were previously down in Alpharetta, so
yep.
That's been a big part of it. And me being a veteran, I would like to plug into some veteran groups around here.
Sure.
So that's kind of at least my main focus right now. Getting to know people, getting into the community. So I know you're doing the same. So that's a big push of what our firm's trying to do, and not necessarily from a business perspective, but really just getting plugged into our home.
Yeah, and the cool thing, I think I've said this on a previous podcast. I grew up in Carroll County. It's a very small county. Not a lot of people there. Everybody knows everybody. It's almost impossible not to get involved in the community because that's just what there is to do there. And then when Chris Light talked me into moving to Forsyth County back in 2013, he told me, he's like, it's like Carrollton, but just a little bit bigger. And it really is. I mean, there's a lot more people here, especially since I've moved here. I think it's almost doubled. But it's still a very tight-knit community.
Yeah.
And to be able to get involved and to have some sort of influence, maybe is the right word, on how the community is going to trend in the future, I think is very important. Absolutely. Especially both of us having young kids.
Yeah.
Getting involved more with schools and having some influence there will be awesome. So I look forward to what we can do with it.
Me too.
So let's talk about the past year. We touched on a little bit of it, what we've got going on currently, but I thought we would kind of focus on, so you and I, we've been partners now for a little bit over a year, had some major changes during that year, including the move and staff and everything else, but thought we'd talk about just general takeaways from our first year together, and then we can kind of transition that into where we want to go later. But if you had to pick a couple of things to talk about that you may have learned or just taken away from our first year, what would it be?
Yeah, learned a lot. One thing I could think about, particularly with a case of ours, is kind of dig in and don't just accept certain things like what a police report says.
Right.
We had a police report that said our client was at fault, and you dug in and researched. We both did, but we dug in and researched and found, hey, maybe not.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be what we expect to be a good result for us, for the client mainly.
Sure.
So that was pretty awesome. But also just how to manage a firm. Looking at that, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about firm management, and that's been really big for me. And then just every case is different. Learning something new with every case.
Yeah.
The ins and outs, do's and don'ts, tricks. How to get it from start to finish. You learn something new with every case, I think.
Yeah.
And then I'm ready to grow, looking to grow. Myself personally, but also our firm, and just kind of seeing, what else we can learn, how we can expand our practices.
Right.
Like you said, we have 55 motor vehicle cases, but, that's not the entirety of the personal injury world.
Mm-hmm.
So looking to expand that and see what we can do.
I think also, I don't know if it's good for the general public, but for us and our careers, I'm not so sure. I think in the next 10 to 20 years, with autonomous vehicles and AI and everything else that's coming, motor vehicle collisions hopefully will cease to be a thing. People will quit getting hurt from cars. Yeah. I think it'll probably get worse before it gets better with the technology. So got plenty of work ahead of us, but it is important for us to stay involved in those other areas that aren't just motor vehicle related. Keep our knowledge up to date on things that are going on with premises cases, or like I said, the other negligence type cases. We've done a lot here lately with the nursing home stuff. Again, I think that's probably the future of personal injury, and a lot of stuff's going to come from that, just with the baby boomers getting to be that age where they're going to nursing home. So, I think we've got to stay on top of our knowledge and continue to learn in these areas, and start focusing on helping those people, because they're going to be the next group that needs us.
Yeah, I agree.
And I echo all of those, that sentiment that you had there on our first year. I would tell you, one of my biggest takeaways, I was solo for 6 years, almost 7 years before we got together. And I had Crystal and a couple of other paralegals in the past. And so had people in the office, and then Crystal started working remotely when her husband got transferred to Charlotte. So it was just me in the office. My biggest takeaway, and what I love almost more than anything else, is just having people in the office again. Yeah. It's so nice to be able to walk down the hall and say, hey, man, this is what I got going on. What do you think? Or what'd you do this weekend? Talking to Amy, seeing what she's got going on. It's a lot of fun just to hear noise in the background. It's so quiet when you're by yourself. Yeah. And my house is not quiet with the 4 kids. So I come here and I'd read, and it's dead silent all day, and I go home to pure chaos. And it was a big transition. So now I got a little bit of background noise to helps that transition better. One thing I think I've taken away as well is the personal injury market. Since we've started doing the podcast and doing a little bit more social media advertising and sort of investigating that and looking into where we need to go, I've learned that the personal injury market is fully saturated with attorneys.
It is.
It is impressive how many personal injury attorneys are out there. Not necessarily that all of those attorneys are impressive, but there's just the volume is incredible. And I've learned sort of what to do and what not to do to set us apart from those other attorneys. And it's really not that difficult. The majority of it just comes from communication, letting your clients know what you're doing, and staying involved and putting forth your best effort. I don't think you're getting that in a lot of other places. I had a call with a client yesterday on a case we're working. There's multiple other attorneys involved for other claimants, and they don't have the information that we've already gotten in 3 days. And he's like, why not? It's like, well, I don't know how to answer that other than tell you they just haven't put in the legwork to go get it. Yeah. So it's fully saturated. The marketing area, fully saturated. So we have to do something to set ourselves apart. We've got a wonderful base of former clients and friends and family and other lawyers that are sending us plenty of work. But to stay on top of everybody's minds, we've got to work that much harder and keep our name out there and do good work. So that's another big takeaway. And then maybe lastly is, obviously inflation's just out of control. Everything's way more expensive today than it was last year and the year before that. And I haven't necessarily seen insurance companies take that into consideration. So the numbers that they're offering are still pretty similar to what they were back in 2019, 2020, 2021. And you're not seeing that uptick for the cost of living. So medical care has gotten more expensive. Settlement offers necessarily haven't gotten that much better. It doesn't correlate there. So we're having to fight that much harder to make them understand why our clients need that much more money. And a lot of that is the insurance companies in the pre-litigation area are giving us a little bit more of a hard time. They're not putting the numbers up that they should, so we're filing a lot more lawsuits than I think we have in the past. The majority of those, again, once you get an attorney involved for the insurance company, they're going to see the reality, and most of those settle relatively quickly. But we are fighting harder than we've ever fought, so that's another area where we've really got to dig in and focus so that our clients aren't being taken advantage of. Exactly. Yeah. Anything else on takeaways?
Piggyback on what you just said. It's not something we don't always help with the property damage side of the claim, but that's something that Clint, I think, mentioned in one of our first podcast. Is that also with replacement vehicle? Insurance companies aren't paying out what the vehicle's worth or what it would be worth in this market.
Sure,
and they're not catching up with that. So that's something that I learned from Clint, and that I'm seeing even on a call this morning. So that's something that's a big takeaway I've learned from this year. Not that it necessarily affects our practice, but when we're helping,
sure,
that's something that comes up.
It does, because our clients are, they're negatively affected by a low offer on their property damage, and then they come to us like, what can I do? And so more often than not, we'll end up getting involved in some capacity and offering advice, and you can do this, that, and the other. But
yeah, exactly.
Like you said, supply chain issues, everything else, the cost to repair a car now is so much more expensive than it used to be. Computers have made it that way.
Yeah. So
the numbers, and again, the numbers just aren't reflecting that. I saw a post on social media from an old high school buddy of mine. He's an insurance agent in Carrollton, and I can't remember the name of the vehicle, but whatever company it is that makes a vehicle is going bankrupt. And he said that company is becoming uninsurable because essentially there's no money there and they're not going to make these cars anymore. They're not going to have the parts to fix these cars, so you can't insure those cars, which is just mind-blowing that that can even happen. So anybody driving, I'll find out what the name of that vehicle was, but something I'd never heard of. So you got to be careful with things like that. So let's talk about this podcast. 9 episodes in now. Absolutely loving it. Like I said, it's not something I thought we'd ever be doing. And I love podcasts. I get all of my content. It sounds like you get a lot of content from podcasts and just education and where things are going, whether it's news, politics, just general. Again, I'm a big Joe Rogan fan, so I love listening to all of his conspiracy theories and UFO stuff and the comedians that come in. But just podcasts in general. So here we are. We're in the podcast world, and I had lunch with a guy yesterday named Josh Stein. I've talked about him before. He's got the Sports and Torch podcast, which I love. I've had a lot of friends that have gone on there with him, and they talk about all sorts of things, a lot of sports, a lot of personal injury. He brings in defense experts and everything else. But I was asking him, like, what's your target audience? Are you trying to focus on anybody in particular? And he's like, no, not really. Selfishly, I just enjoy doing it. If people take something from it, fantastic. But I'm not trying to get any specific target audience to listen to this. And I feel like we're kind of the same way. Obviously, we started this to educate the public about personal injury and what you and I do. But I think it's grown into more than that. It's just you and I enjoy sitting here talking to each other and talking to people and fleshing out ideas and putting them out there for people to take if they want to or don't if they don't. Yeah. But it's been a cool ride.
It has. Not someone that I thought would be able to do a podcast talking about myself here.
Yeah.
Initially. Definitely brought me out of my shell a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's been good.
I've noticed that too. In depositions that we've taken since we started this, I feel like I'm much better at taking depositions now than I was before the podcast, just from sitting here and listening to you and responding to whatever it is that you say, our guests that come in, trying to earnestly listen to what it is they're putting out. That way I can ask a follow-up question or we can carry the conversation on naturally. But it's maybe a better attorney just by sitting here doing this. So something I enjoy doing. What's your favorite episode that we've done so far?
I would have to say our initial episode that was called The Advocate.
Yeah.
I believe in this profession, it's really important to me to do it ethically and honorably and to the best of your ability. But that's what a lot about what we talked about in that one is how do we do this job ethically? How do we work well with clients, adjusters, other attorneys, and what our profession is vested with and the trust from the community. Yeah. And I know that all sounds, I don't know, hyperbolic, I don't know, but it's important to me that we talk about that, how we want to be ethical lawyers, and how we want to do this the right way, but also advocate for our clients the best way.
Yeah. That was also the episode, I think, where you got to break out the To Kill a Mockingbird quote. So, yeah, good stuff. to piggyback on it, I don't know that I have one particular episode that's my favorite. I've enjoyed each of them a little differently, but I think when we have guests in here, that is my favorite. I love talking to you. I love hearing what you got to say, but I get to see you every day.
Yeah.
So to pull in these people that we don't get to talk to all the time and just hear about their backgrounds and how they got involved, it's been really a blessing just to get to know these folks and learn a little bit more about them. So I hope we can really shift this and start bringing in more guests and hearing about what they want to say. Again, not targeting any particular area. Obviously, we're focused in personal injury, and a lot of what we talk about will be personal injury, but I'd love to talk about other things too.
Yeah.
Just bring in a wide variety of topics and let the community sort of engage with us and tell us what they want to hear. We talk about personal injury, any changes and results that we're having, do a little bit of educational stuff, but more than anything, just have a fun podcast that people enjoy listening to and hopefully take something away from. Don't want to monetize it in any way. Not looking for sponsors, not looking for YouTube to pay us on this, but just to have an outlet where you and I can chat.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's our next focus, I think, where we want to take this is what our firm, when we first started, what we talked about is community service oriented.
Yeah.
And so our goal going forward is to kind of focus on that, have some people on here that, people want to hear from.
Sure.
Whether it's, local officials in the Forsyth County or Metro Atlanta area, maybe even, political candidates.
Yeah, it's a good year for that, certainly.
Yeah. No endorsements coming here, but, just political candidates, maybe from both sides talking about it. Other community leaders, maybe, I don't know, police officers to the extent they can come on. County commissioner or something on those lines, I think is what we really want to do. So, what we would ask from listeners is tell us who you want to hear from. Maybe reach out to us on social media. You can call the office if you want or email us. But maybe tell us who you want to hear from.
Yeah, who you want to hear from, what you want to hear people talk about.
Yeah.
I think what you hit on there is really important. Our slogan, motto, whatever you want to call it, it's on our logo is community service people. And those are very, very important to us. But when we say community, obviously we live in the Forsyth County community, which is plenty here that we can talk about. A lot going on. But our community really it goes much more than that. I mean, obviously I've got ties to Carroll County, but it's Metro Atlanta in general.
Right. What's
happening in the area that's affecting what we do for a living, what's affecting the general populace. And then also the state of Georgia. I mean, there's so much. This state is just booming. I mean, since we were kids, it's incredible the growth that the state has experienced. We've had some great leadership that's really taken in the right direction. And I think people really should pay as much, if not more, attention to what's happening locally than maybe even federally.
Yeah.
Federal headlines are what they are. They're exciting. They're juicy. They're exciting. Plenty of sound bites that you can pull off of those. And I've been listening to the Republican convention this week every night, and it's flipping back and forth between Fox and CNN and hearing the different perspectives is wild.
Yeah.
But in reality, that's not going to affect what I do on a day-to-day basis that much. Sure, it may cost me more in taxes. It may, there may be some sort of mandate that goes into place that I don't like. But what's happening here at home in Georgia and specifically Forsyth County, I think is really, really important. So if we can get people in here that have their finger on the pulse of what's happening, I think then we should explore that and just expand on what you and I care about the most, and that's making sure that we take care of the people that are closest to us.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So yeah, if you got any ideas, anybody out there, reach out to us. Let us know. You want to hear from a state rep? You want to hear from, I don't know, we get judges on here. They may be a little bit apprehensive to do it, but we know a couple. We might be able to get them in. Police officers, police chiefs, whatever. Maybe it's just a local high school coach. What's the local high school football coach doing? How's he raising those young men? What's going on at the school? That type of thing. So we'll reach out and we'll see if we can't bring some folks in, and obviously still bringing in attorneys.
Yeah.
There's plenty of great attorneys in this area that I care about immensely, and I'd like to give them a platform to talk about what they do, how they interact with us, hit the advocacy topic a little bit more, and how they're advocates. So we'll sprinkle that in a little bit too, but yeah, let's shift this more towards the community.
Yeah, that's the goal.
All right, well, we've done those topics. Let's wrap it up with where we want to take it over the next year. So sort of some 1-year goals.
Yeah, I mean, one of them is to maintain our caseload.
Sure.
I wouldn't mind expanding on it a little bit, but, just kind of making sure that we stay where we're at, stay within the bounds of, what us as a firm need to do. but that's one big one. We like to add another attorney and paralegal at some point.
Yeah.
Add to the team, grow. We've got some office space for them. So
Sure. Want to do it the right way. Want to be smart about it.
right.
The demand is there, and if we keep getting the calls that we're getting, then it's inevitable. We're going to have to add to it. And I think, like I said, that sweet zone being 60 to 75 cases for us to split. Really and truly, if you get above 40 cases, especially if you got a bunch of them in litigation as an individual attorney, you're maxed out.
Yeah,
and I think you start losing the ability to offer value on all your cases. So if we get to the point where we're growing, we've got that much demand, then we need to get an attorney in here. Anybody looking for a job? Want to switch over from the dark side to the good side? Let us know. We may have a spot for you.
Yeah. Grow responsibly. I think
grow responsibly, and I'd like to grow the podcast too.
Yeah.
So we've had some really good feedback on the podcast. We're now on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube. So we've got our outlets. We're out there now. The America can find us. I hope they do. But I want to grow it, reach more people, and offer services to those people. I think probably when you grow something like that, you're going to get some negative stuff that comes from it as well, which I'm ready for. But it's wonderful. It's a great outlet. So hopefully we can take it to the next level. Continue on with our reels, those things, the reels and the TikTok. Jeff was just telling us before we got started, we're on TikTok now, which
I never thought that would happen.
Nope. Don't have TikTok on my phone. Don't know anything about TikTok.
Yep.
My kids do TikTok dances all the time, but apparently we posted one video on there, got like 1,800 views in just a very short period of time on TikTok. So we're going to keep expanding that.
Yeah.
See what kind of population we can reach. And then a big topic you and I have talked about really since inception is starting a nonprofit.
Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of work that's involved in that. We haven't begun it yet. We've got a lot of things that we've got to get in order before we can get it up and running. But you and I both want to give back to a nonprofit. We've got a really good friend that has a law firm down in Atlanta, and a portion of every one of their settlements or judgments goes to this animal shelter. They're big animal advocates, and I really love what they do. And I think something that's close to both you and I is infertility and in vitro fertilization specifically. We both dealt with it. It's a drain financially. It's a drain mentally. It affects all aspects of a couple's life when they have to go through it. So because we've done it and we've done it successfully, we would like to help other people do it. And what that looks like is yet to be seen. So we're going to do some sort of nonprofit centered around infertility. And hopefully we'll get to a point where every single one of our settlements or judgments, portion of those proceeds from our fee, will go to fund this nonprofit, and then we can help people who need the help to pay for what they've got going.
Yeah, that's the goal. I know a lot of people that have gone through IVF just like we have.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's becoming more common. I hope not. But I know what a financial and emotional strain it was on my family.
Sure.
And I want, if anything we can do by our success is to alleviate that for people.
Yep.
I'm in.
Yeah. And selfishly, we'll get the benefit of giving back to a community that we care about with those people going through IVF. It's an outlet for us to go and reach into the community a little bit more and help those people. So we're staying true to our core values, but it's an area that's certainly becoming, I don't call it a pandemic, but I can remember before I started having children, I didn't know anybody that had gone through IVF, and now it seems like there's just not a majority, but a lot of people that have to use it. So, and not everybody can pay for it. And I would love to give anybody the opportunity that wants to have a kid the ability to have a kid, or at least give it the good college try. So yeah, I look forward to that. We're going to put our nose to the grindstone and figure out how to make that happen.
Yep, that's right.
And then just beyond that, getting involved, like we talked about, with community even more. You're a couple steps ahead of me, so I got to get in some of these organizations. Maybe I'll just become a cheer dad and get involved in that cheer community even more than I'm already funding it fully, it feels like. But get in there a little bit more. So, anything else you want to touch on before we close it out?
Just to piggyback off what you said. Getting involved in our community. This move to Cumming, I think, has been good for us.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of people we knew and used to see maybe in the courtroom hallway. We're really digging in and making a lot of friends, which I love. I think it's great. I think it's going to be good for people to know we're here. I hope they never need us, but in the event that they do, they'll know that we're here for them.
Yep, absolutely. A good spot to close it. So, as always, we're here in Cumming, Georgia. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram and now TikTok at Bettis Musgrove. Look up the podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube. Give it a listen. Check out the reels that we're posting. If you, a family member, a friend, anybody that you know has been injured due to somebody else's negligence, give us a call. Let us help you. As always, and I should mention the website, bettismusgrove.com. You can email both of us, Ben and or Spencer at bettismusgrove.com. But until next time, you guys stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.